Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Chris. It's your boy Chris. It's another amazing episode of Financipation. This channel is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth. It's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. So, for this particular episode, everybody, we are going to talk about traits that I've noticed among highly successful people. Full disclosure, I have sat in subways with billionaires. I have been at country clubs or whatever and met people that are decamillionaires. I've basically met people who are so successful that when you met them, you would be flat out shocked about the amount of money that they had because A, they were very flashy. And then there are other people that you met that I've basically met that when you met them, you'd be flat out surprised about how successful they are because they're not flashy. I've literally met the entire gamut. And there are certain things that I've noticed about the extremely flashy wealthy types and the extremely unflashy wealthy types that I've noticed as far as similarities. And I want to kind of talk about what those similarities are pretty much in this video. So with that, let's get started. So these are some of the traits that I have noticed among people that are highly successful. First and foremost, for the most part, I've noticed that they all wake up very early. The typical millionaire, they say, wakes up at 5 a.m. The typical millionaire does not spend a lot of time watching television. They don't actually spend a lot of time basically Netflix and chilling. They don't spend a lot of time basically doing things that are taking away their time. The typical millionaire understands that, generally speaking, the number one resource that we have and the number one resource that we can't get back is our time. They don't spend a lot of time wasting it doing things that don't make them money and don't basically help their families. Additionally, one thing I've also noticed about millionaires is that, typically speaking, they don't really spend a lot of time sleeping in. For them, sleeping in basically is 8 a.m. And I typically have been around millionaires pretty much who typically, usually, generally speaking, get up at 5 a.m. I myself am a 3:30 a.m. kind of guy. And just so that you all know, I've written 3 books. I run 2 businesses. I work about 60 hours a week as a mechanical engineer from my 8 to 5. And I'm married with a 1-month-old. And I wrote those 3 books pretty much at 3 o'clock in the morning. So the typical one trait that I find about highly successful people is that they wake up very early and they go to bed the night before at a reasonable hour. Second thing I've noticed, the typical millionaire in America, they say, the typical American only reads 1 book a year. The typical millionaire reads over 50 books a year. So the typical millionaire averages 1 book, and it's typically not a fiction book, by the way. It's like How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Millionaire Next Door, Total Money Makeover, that kind of stuff. The typical millionaire in America reads 50 books a year. The typical American only reads 1 book a year. So how many books are you reading? Readers are leaders, people. I'm gonna talk more about this later, but self-education, in my opinion, is the key. And it's kind of embarrassing that the typical American is only reading 1 book a year. So read, people. Readers, as I said earlier, they're leaders. Another trait that I've noticed among highly successful people, they have a plan and they work that plan. They have a laser-like focus on what it is that they're doing. If they are a baker, they become the best possible baker they can possibly be. In addition to being the best possible baker, they figure, okay, how am I going to scale my business? Who are my clientele? Who's the people I'm going to talk to? So they have literally a laser-like focus on whatever it is that they do. And typically, whatever it is that they're good at, they invest decades of their life, 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week, for years on end, mastering that craft. And once they've mastered, they figure out a way to basically even get better at it. So that's what I've noticed about highly successful people. They are very patient with what it is that they're doing. And that patience pretty much comes with a certain level of discipline and a certain level of skill that basically when you're around them, you say, okay, this individual is absolutely world class at what they do. And they don't need to say it. That's the funny thing. You just kind of can tell just somehow, just from the results and what they're getting. Next, people that are basically the skill sets of the people who are very talented at what they do, they are extremely competitive and they do not believe in second place. Michael Jordan, he didn't believe in second place. Rest in peace to the great Kobe Bryant. He did not believe in second place. Tom Brady did not believe in second place. Sidney Crosby does not believe in second place. A personal hero of mine, Dan Gable, one of the greatest American wrestlers of all time, he did not believe in second place. LeBron James does not believe in second place. Highly competitive people, whether it's corporate America, whether it's your favorite sports team, they want to be the absolute best at what it is that they do. And in corporate America, they make it extremely clear. This individual is not in the sports world, they're not an entrepreneur, they are in corporate America. They make it very, very clear that they want to be that C-suite status executive. They want to basically become a partner in that particular law firm, or partner at that engineering firm. And if they don't become, and they basically make sure that if they stay in corporate America, they're going to get equity. If they go the entrepreneur route, I find that some of the traits of highly successful people is that they put in 100 hours a week, 10 years in a row to build a multi-billion-dollar business. a multi-billion dollar business. And as an entrepreneur, they utterly mastered their craft and they're always looking for new ways to beat the competition. Kobe Bryant wasn't a good assist guy, supposedly. He basically ended up becoming one of his lead assist men on some of his championship teams when he beat the Boston Celtics. So basically, they figure out ways to basically ingratiate themselves to their teammates. Michael Jordan, same thing with him. When he first got to the NBA, the dude was averaging 35, 40 points a game. The man can't pass. So what he ended up doing, he became a great passer or whatever. So LeBron James, he took his basketball talents off the basketball field and ended up becoming one of the best entrepreneurs. He's a billionaire athlete, but he's one of the best entrepreneurs pretty much of his generation. So highly competitive people. One of the traits of highly successful people or whatever is that basically they are extremely competitive. Next, these people, they never stop educating themselves no matter how old they get. It's pretty interesting. I've actually met people, highly successful people. Obviously, I've met people who are 80 years old, and they are basically taking martial arts classes so they can have more energy to work their businesses. It's seriously, I've walked into studios, Muay Thai, boxing, jiu-jitsu, and I see 80-year-old men doing jiu-jitsu, and I ask them, why are you doing jiu-jitsu? And they'll say, because Chris, I'm running a multi-million dollar business and I want to have more energy so that I can interact with my clients. Think about that for a minute. I have taken engineering certifications and I've seen 70 to 75-year-old men walking into these certifications. These are 9-hour exams. And I see a 75-year-old man walking in on a cane or sometimes in a wheelchair taking a 9-hour exam. I'm like, why are you doing that? He says, because I want to become the best in my possible field. And in order for me to do that, I need to get this certification so that I can start doing business in New Jersey or in Florida. It's pretty crazy. I've met 65-year-old men who take, and women who are taking Spanish classes so they can basically break into the Latin American market. And they spoke English, they're from Iowa and they spoke English their entire lives. So basically people, one skill set that I've learned, that I've noticed among highly successful, talented people is that they continue to educate themselves and they never stop learning. Something else, a trait that I've found among highly successful people is they find someone to love, they find someone to marry, and they basically try to make that relationship work. Now, yes, I have met people who are highly successful and they've been divorced. I've met people who the relationship did not turn out the way they thought it would. But generally speaking, what I've noticed is that it's almost impossible for a man to succeed if he plants his seed in contaminated soil. In other words, it's very hard for you to succeed basically if you're running around smashing a bunch of chicks. It's very hard for you to succeed if you got a bunch of baby mamas and a bunch of divorced wives everywhere. So you rarely, if you notice, you very rarely see CEOs, VPs, C-suite status executives, politicians, or presidential candidates that are unmarried. You don't really see a lot of that. You also don't see a lot of CEOs, C-suite status executives running a lot of women. And it's for obvious reasons. Divorce and child support literally kill your generational wealth. And marrying the right person basically is one of the fastest ways you can springboard pretty much yourself to basically stacking generational paper and building generational wealth. I actually have separate videos about that. Lastly, people, in regards to this thing about in regards to this subject, it is very hard to start a business or to run in $1 billion company if you're trying to juggle 9 to 10 women at the same time. So basically, I find, generally speaking, that guys that are trying to be players, guys that are trying to run a bunch of women, they typically aren't that as successful. And the highly successful people, they typically find someone to love and they do everything in their power to make that relationship work. Next, they find something to believe in and they follow it. This is a financial channel. It's not a religious channel. Full disclosure, I'm a Christian. But I've noticed that people who are highly successful, whether it was Dubai, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it was England, whether it was the UK, whether it was Alabama, whether it was Latin America, whether it was Africa, it didn't matter. Highly successful people typically have a moral compass or faith or guiding power or higher power rather they believe in. I'm not saying they always were Christians. I met people that are highly successful who are devout Hindus. I've met people who are devout, who are highly successful, who believe in Gaia and they believe in praying to Mother Earth. I've met people who are highly successful and they're Sunni, Shiites, and Muslims. I've met people who are highly successful who are Christians. So basically, I find that people typically, one trait of highly successful people is that they find something to believe and they try to live according to that lifestyle. If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because if you have a moral compass about what's quote unquote wrong and what's right, it generally can kind of get you in, can kind of keep you from getting yourself into stupid situations, particularly if you're a dude. Next, another trait I found about highly successful people, this is going to tick some of you off, but I'm going to say it. I find highly successful people typically they stay in shape and they don't let themselves go. I actually have a separate video completely on this, and I'll just basically make it very clear. It's very hard for a person to take you seriously if, when they first meet you, they see you're morbidly obese or you're extremely unhealthy. Now, I know it's controversial to say in the body positivity society that we live in, but I'm gonna keep it real with you people. If a person sees you and you're morbidly obese, they're thinking in the back of their brain, how in the world can I do business with this person? This person is not even disciplined enough to keep themselves in shape. How can I trust them to run a business if they may, quote unquote, die of a heart attack or have obesity related health issues and die prematurely? Now, I'm not talking about those people who have health issues and they can't lose weight. I'm talking about the ones who are unhealthy, who are basically not in shape because they just refuse to work out. And it is very hard for an obese person to work as long and to work as hard as a person who's healthy. And typically speaking, people who are healthy, generally speaking, call in a lot less sick than those who are unhealthy and those who are obese. And the last thing I'll say is this. Let's say you make $100,000 and you die of a heart attack at 45. If the retirement age is 70, that means you just cost your family $2.5 million because you died 25 years prematurely. Get in shape, people, and stay in shape. Do not let yourself get overweight. And I understand the whole body positivity thing, or whatever. Lose the weight, get in shape. It's as simple as that. Next, another trait of highly successful people, they learn to ignore what other people think. If you want to be successful in life, people, get ready because you're going to have haters. If you don't want to be successful, be a homeless person. I'm sorry, if you don't want to have haters, be a homeless guy because they don't really have too many people hating on them. Well, they actually kind of do. But what I'm saying is this, guys, if you want to be successful, get ready because you are going to have a lot of people that are going to try to tear you down. Sometimes these people want to tear you down a family. Sometimes the people you made, sometimes they're the same people you pray and go to church or to go to the mosque with. Whoever it is, if you want to be successful in life, people, you are going to have people that want to tear you down. So learn to deal with the critics. Listen to the ones that actually you can learn from and learn to ignore the other ones. Next, another trait I find from highly successful people is that they learn when to let certain friends go. They learn when to kind of take themselves out of certain social circles and certain groups. And they also kind of learn, unfortunately, when to kind of let family members go. And by letting family members go, I'll go with that one first. You don't necessarily let them go per se. You just kind of edit that relationship. You say, okay, I love you all, but we're only going to kick it pretty much in this environment. We're only going to basically talk shot when we're talking about who's better, LeBron or Kobe, who's better, Jordan or whoever, who's better, Brady or Montana. It's like sometimes kind of with family members, I don't say let them go because I think family is a blessing and you should not let that go. But I think sometimes in life there are some family members and friends gonna have to say, all right, this may be a relationship I have to edit. Myself, I was an athlete my entire life. Half the guys I played ball with growing up are dead or locked up now. It's sad. I look at my high school teammates, a lot of them, they made choices in life that unfortunately did not turn out that great. I kind of saw those choices they were making as we were all playing ball in high school and everything, and to some extent in college. And I realized, okay, if in order for me to go to the next level, I'm going to kind of have to either let this friendship go or figure out basically how I'm going to edit it so that they don't bring me down with them. And in life, you're going to have to do that. I've done that with my MMA buddies. I've done that with my basketball buddies. I've done that with guys I used to play ball with and everything. So like I said, you don't necessarily completely let them go, but it is a friendship that you, to some extent, may have to edit. Next, another trait I find about highly successful people is they learn to filter what enters their mind. So in social media, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, the war in Ukraine, basically your girlfriend's texting you, your husband's texting you, your boyfriend's texting you, or whatever. You got your boss is texting you. You got so much different things. Because of these right here, cell phones, there are so many different distractions that come our way, whether it's social media, IG, Twitter, Facebook, or whatever. Like I said, the political thing, that if you're not careful, you're going to have so many distractions coming into your mind that you're not going to be functional. You're not going to be able to basically do what you should be doing when you should be doing it. So learn to filter what comes into your mind. Learn to keep your mind decluttered from the crap that's going on. And also learn to focus on what's important. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You don't need to know who Kardashian is dating now. You don't need to know basically every box score is going on with sports. Learn what's important and declutter your mind from the crap. Next, highly successful people, a trait I find from highly successful people is that they are buffaloes, they're not cows. So I love this analogy. So cows are part of the cattle family, part of the bovita family, and there's a very interesting thing between buffaloes and cows. So generally speaking, cattle don't like getting wet. So during a storm, A buffalo, which is typically a wild cow or whatever, if it sees a storm coming, it runs directly into the storm. And the reason why it runs into the storm is because they hate being wet. But buffaloes are smart enough to know, okay, if I run to my problems, I run to something that I hate, by the time they're running into the storm is passing over them. They're basically not wet as long, and they're not basically uncomfortable for as long. Cows, however, do the exact opposite. When a cow sees a storm coming, they turn around and run the other way. So when a cow sees their problems coming, instead of facing the problem, they run away from it. So what ends up happening is as they're running away from it, the storm just stays over them, and they stay wet, miserable, and uncomfortable for a lot longer than the buffalo. And to me, that's a great analogy to life. If you run to your problems and solve them, or you run to a difficult client or to a difficult project and figure it out and solve it, it's not, the pain is not going to last as long. You're going to shine, and on top of that, you're also going to learn lessons you need to learn to move on. But if you run from your problems, which is what cows do, you're screwed. Another thing I find a trait from highly successful people, they make very wise financial investments. And hear me out on this. I'm not talking about crypto. I'm not talking about stocks. I'm not talking about being a trader versus being an investor. They invest their time in quality people. They invest their time in their wives. They invest their time in their children. They don't chase fads, or they don't chase get quick rich bubbles that pop. They also don't sell their heritage. So they make, when I say financial investment, I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about people. And when I talk about financial heritage, think of it like this. The richest families in mainland China today, and in Italy today, and in Spain today, were the same richest families 2,000 years ago. I'll say that again. The richest families in mainland China, Italy, and Spain today are some of the same 10 richest families from 2,000 years ago. Now, how is that possible? Because they basically did not sell the businesses or sell the institutions that basically they could pass from family to family just so they could make a quick buck. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. There's certain neighborhoods in Boston that are the same way. You can go and find a business that is owned by an Italian gentleman or by an Irish family. And basically these people started this business in the 1700s, and still to this day, 2022, the business is still there. It's pretty amazing. So that's something else I find about a trait of highly successful people. They can see something 7 generations in the future and they don't get rid of it. They keep it. And lastly, the one defining trait that I have found among highly successful people is this. They establish a legacy. They establish a mentor and an heir, and they train that person to basically take over what they spent their life building. On this channel, I talk about generational wealth. I talk about basically preparing and building yourself so that you can escape financial poverty and generational poverty. And there is no such thing as generational wealth if you don't got generations. So in order to basically be highly successful, a trait that I find among people along varying degrees of people, no matter what culture you're in, no matter where you are, is they find a legacy and they find an individual and they pour that into them. And they use that individual to basically continue their legacy. I've seen this with people with their daughters. I've seen this in men with their sons. I've seen this in men with their nephews. I've seen this in men with basically who did not have kids, and they found an employee or a person who they prayed at the same church or mosque or whatever, and they poured into that individual. So basically, a trait that a highly successful people have is that they find a person, or they find an institution, or they find a group of people, and they put all of their knowledge that they have into them before God calls them home, before they die. And they make the type of decisions, as I said earlier, that literally last 7 generations in the future. They're not thinking about how they're gonna go out on a bang. They're not thinking about the biggest party they're gonna go to. They say, how is this decision going to affect my great grandchildren 400, 300 years from now, who I'm never gonna meet? So yep, those are some of the traits that I find. I mean, there's other things that I find too, but in general, these are some of the traits that I find among highly successful people, and it's a truly beautiful thing. So like I said, everybody here at Financial Patient, this channel is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth, and it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. So please like, please comment, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.